Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA Guide at betternestegg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to betternestegg.com.
The following show is paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
Welcome. This is Sidebar. Sidebar, a frank discussion on life, the law, and liberty. Sponsored by the LaHood Norton Law Group. And now, your objection sustained. Your hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney, Nico LaHood.
Thank you so much for joining Sidebar today and every Saturday starting from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on WOAI. We transition then to social media, and so we would encourage you right now to get on. You can find a platform by going to sidebartv.com. I almost don't know where to go when it comes to introducing what topics we'll be talking about today because so many different things happened. The Karmelo Anthony case, President Donald Trump continues to talk about tariffs and continues the pushback and trying to bring revenue back into America. Then there's the New York Attorney General Letitia James saying the Trump administration officials are claiming all of this fraud against her and that it's all baseless. I don't know if that's a case of payback or not, but that's...
Yeah, and then there's a lot to talk about. And then there's a Garcia case about the...
Absolutely.
About the El
Well, no, he's not the Garcia case. He is the deported Maryland father.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Which is what they continue to talk about. You know, maybe we should start with that.
Well, let's start with this. Let's start with wishing all Christians a very blessed,
very good
resurrection celebration. Yesterday was Good Friday.
Yeah.
And it's ironic that it's called Good Friday because you're talking about the crucifixion and the execution of an innocent Jew that we call Messiah, first century Jew. And so in our men's Bible study, we went through the Holy Week, from Palm Sunday to Resurrection Sunday. And each day, Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, what they call Spy Wednesday, when Judas betrayed Jesus for the 30 pieces of silver. And then, of course, the Last Supper on Thursday. And then Good Friday yesterday in the morning, where Christ, an innocent man, was not given due process. So let's talk about due process. He was not given due process, and he was innocent. And there was no crime that anyone could allege against him. And he stayed quiet, and he was crucified for our sins, as Christians believe. And then 3 days later, there was an empty tomb. And then there's an apologetics behind defending the historical fact of the resurrection. George and I go through all the time. But just wanted to wish happy resurrection celebration to all Christians listening in. Okay, now we get to...
No. I one thing that I forgot to do is introduce you to, because there could be somebody that's just starting to listen, and they're like, who are these... No, I'm just
schmucks.
Every week you come here, you can listen to the former Bexar County DA, Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and Jorge Rougeau, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. Okay, you mentioned the term due process, and in my mind, I always think, isn't that something that Americans are assured to get, due process? But what news? I mean, I've been in here for a couple of hours. What news are you talking about, and why do we need to be talking about due process?
Well, Abrego Garcia is an El Salvadorian citizen who was here illegally. So here's the deal. This gets emotional with people, and we need to shelf our emotions. You can be passionate. That's something different. Let's just talk about facts, and we're going to do that with the Karmelo Anthony stabbing allegations, all that, and after this on one of the other blocks as well. We got to just talk objectively. And what I've seen is both sides, quote unquote, arguing certain facts to their benefit. I mean, just look at the Supreme Court ruling, 9-0. They're each taking victory laps. And two things can be true at the same time. It said a number of things. It said that due process was violated, so you have to facilitate his return. But it also said that the judicial branch can't tell the executive branch what to do about foreign, concerns and things of this nature and foreign safety. So they were both said two things at the same time. So what's due process? Because they said there was a due process violation. Well, how much due process does an illegal immigrant get versus a citizen?
That has been my question, right?
So you mentioned a Maryland father. Well, he was a father because he fathered children. He lived in Maryland, but the way it's being portrayed is he's a Maryland citizen and that he's just an upstanding citizen and all this other stuff, and that he was just yanked out, and if it can happen to you, it can happen to us, and all this stuff. And that's where we get hyperbolic, and we just have to separate all of this stuff. So here are the facts from what I know, and anybody can write in and correct me, or George can correct me Karen, you can. Salo cannot correct me.
Okay.
And so we have an illegal immigrant. He was here illegally. So he's an illegal alien. And there was a deportation order. So he was ruled and given due process through an immigration lawyer. Due process just means fundamental fair play. And we can talk about what that really means. It means were you given proper notice? Was a proper procedure followed? And was there a hearing to make a determination? Those are the three elements, in my opinion, of due process, fundamental fair play. And yes, even an illegal immigrant gets some sort of due process. They don't get a jury trial. They get a judge. It doesn't have to be a judicial judge, Article 3. So many times it can be someone appointed, all these other things. But there was a hearing and there was a determination that you have to leave because you're here illegally. You're criminally trespassing this country. Just like someone can criminally trespass your house, and nobody would like that on either side, people criminally trespass in this country. So there was an order. It was appealed. He was given more due process, and this is just factual. He was appealed, and then an appellate court said, nope, you got to go. Now, we'll talk about the side issues about whether he had a protective order against him, whether he was alleged to have assaulted his girlfriend, whether he was human trafficking people in Tennessee. Those are separate issues, but they're relevant. Well, that's MS-13. Now, the MS-13 analysis was made during this immigration hearing. So he was found to be part of an MS-13 gang, okay? And I saw a picture, but I don't know if it was his hand, where he has tattoos, insignia of MS-13. How do you figure out if someone's in a gang? Most people don't. If someone's either in the Bandito or Mexican Mafia or these other organizations, well, you have tattoos, you hang out with people. He was alleged to have found with other MS-13 members, and there was testimony during this hearing to say that only MS-13 hang out with MS-13. There was tattoos on his hand that portray MS-13, which, okay, that's you're saying you are.
I wouldn't put that tattoo on just for
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to talk about your tattoos.
Yeah.
And so, where they're at. I mean, so, no, and then there was testimony that there's observations or things of this nature. So there was a judicial finding that he's part of this gang. So that was a finding, and it was appealed and it was upheld. All this stuff was you're going to go. So there's a deportation order. Now, there was a withholding order. This is the part that they're saying the due process was violated. There was a withholding order. Why? Think about the argument. Because he's making the claim that he's in danger in El Salvador from what? Rival gangs. So you're making this admission that you're part of a gang to be threatened by a rival gang. Mm-hmm. Bloods and Crips usually go at each other. Bloods and Crips usually don't go after a grandma or a Maryland daddy or a San Antonio daddy just for no reason, unless you're trying to interrupt their procedures and processes and money making. But all I'm saying is, so you're making this admission and defending yourself, and so that's what happened. So but now the counter argument was, well, you're part of MS-13, and President Trump has designated MS-13 as a terrorist organization. So guess what? A withholding order does not apply to you because you're a terrorist, part of a terrorist organization. Those are the arguments. Now, the Supreme Court came back 9-0 that, due process was violated, but judges don't tell presidents what to do when it comes to these issues. So you have to, quote unquote, and here's this, facilitate. What the hell does that mean? It wasn't defined, so nobody knows. So you have some people saying you have to bring him back no matter what El Salvador says. The other side says all we have to do is not stop him at the border if El Salvador sends him back, and the Supreme Court didn't give us any guidance on that. Okay, so bottom line is this. You have a found MS-13 member who had due process to make that with a order to leave, to deport. You have a withholding order that they're claiming was violated, and the Supreme Court apparently agrees with that, and you have to facilitate him back. Now, okay, well, what's the harm analysis? So the reality, and here's the counter argument, doesn't mean due process wasn't violated, by the way. Okay, we have to compartmentalize things. Now, the counter argument is, okay, we'll send him back, then he's going to be detained, and he's going to be deported again. Okay, well then, if you want due process to be followed, which I'm a due process hawk, you know that. I mean, that would be my preference, to be honest with you, because the Supreme Court has made a ruling. Now, is it practical? It's obviously not practical because El Salvador doesn't want to send him back. Wink, wink, nod, nod. I'm not sending them back a terrorist. And Trump can't go in there and get him. So that's the best I could lay it out from what I tried to figure out this week during Holy Week. And George, add to it.
That I wouldn't change a damn thing. That was really well done. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. For somebody to know anything about this about 10 minutes ago, you did a great job. Well, I mean, you really, no, seriously, you that was excellent. I guess my worry, Nico, is that since the road to hell is paved with good intentions, here we have, and we had this discussion 2 weeks ago about the First Amendment, and I think this is a perfect parallel here in terms of habeas or due process. I think this is, again, the the misuse and the abuse of American jurisprudence to undo America from its core. That's what I think is happening. I think it is a misuse. The notion that illegal aliens get to come into the United States and get to enjoy fundamental fair play, as you would say, due process through immigration courts in the United States or any other courts in the United States, when the very first act was to break the law and come into the United States so that they're basically treated as American citizens. Bear with me here. They're not American citizens, but for practical purposes, they are. That is grotesquely unjust. And we sit here and we feel good about ourselves because we're somehow upholding American constitutional principles as if the founders of the country had that in view. It seems to me on its face absurd, especially when the court, and you mentioned this is important, this is what I'd like you to help me dissect. Because that's where we are now. It seems to be the intersection where we are. And the court ruled 9-0 that due process was violated. And then it also said that in fact that the judge had no right to tell presidents what to do in what way, in national security issues and foreign policy negotiation issues. Why is this a national security issue? Because to your point, he was designated, MS-13 is designated a foreign terrorist organization, as is Tren de Aragua. Due process through the court becomes completely precluded. It's irrelevant at that point. That's the issue. And so if we are going to take that tack with 14 million illegals who have been here in the last 4 years under Biden, good luck. We'll be doing this for a century.
We'll come back after the break, Karen. I have something to say about that, but go ahead.
Okay, no, that's what I was going to say. We're going to take a break, but we will continue this conversation, and people online like MJ and Alex and Patty and Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, sidebartv.com, and please become a supporter. We'll be right back.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. Salo, you're quiet over there. What's going on? Oh, he says, stop. Don't talk to him right now. Listen, this is Sidebar. Go to sidebartv.com, and definitely, I didn't mention it at the beginning of the program, but we would love for you to contribute to the show. That's at sidebartv.com. Okay, so we're talking about this court ruling and due process. You said,
but it's fundamental. I mean, as you talked about, George, you mentioned before the break, the Supreme Court came back with another ruling on Venezuelan illegals.
Just this morning.
Yeah, and so 7-2. I mean, you had Scalia and who else? And Alito, right? That strong dissented.
Please keep in mind, this is brand new, so check me out on this. I think it's 7-2, although a lot of reports came out and said it was 5-4, so we need to get that clarified.
Yeah, I don't know. I just saw the headline.
It's either 7-2 or 5-4. I believe it's 7-2 based on the net.
I haven't read. I didn't understand their logic. I didn't read it because it just came up and I just saw it on the way in. So I was not reading and driving. Don't worry. But I just saw that. So I didn't get to check into it. But my point is, you get this notion that the Supreme Court is collectively protective of due process, and they should be. And it's not that illegals get the same. Because remember, Scalia, we talked about under the First Amendment, believed that even illegals here have a right to speech. Because how can they defend themselves in any other manner? I mean, you still don't want innocent people, punished and convicted of things they didn't do. And so the problem isn't whether illegals get the same due process. It's how do you defend yourself if there's no due process in hearings of making sure that you have the right people in that group. That's my issue. I mean, so when you came here illegally, I mean, what if someone rounded you up and said you're a Portuguese terrorist and sent your ass back? You would have said, hold on, I want to. No, you don't get due process because you're not a citizen yet. That wouldn't have been right. And so we have to have some process. And so Abrego Garcia, he was given that. So when you say he wasn't given due process, my response is, at what point? Because there's a continuum here. There's a series of events that have happened, and we have to compartmentalize them. He was given due process when he was designated an MS-13 member. He was given due process when he had a deportation order. He was given due process when he had an appellate process that was given. He was given due process when he actually got a withholding order granted to him, and because he had an opposing gang going to hurt him, allegedly. So that was there. Now, they could have sent him somewhere else, but they didn't. They just, that was under Biden, and there's criticisms on how that was done, and so he kind of skated and fell through the cracks. But he had these legal processes in place. So I'm all for due process. I don't think it should be skated. I understand it shouldn't be the exact same as an American citizen. I agree with that notion completely, but there still has to be a process in place, and we have to honor it.
But you got to go beyond that even further, because, and this matters, and this is what I think is getting lost in this, and this is very dangerous for the country, and we're sort of playing these games right now with really existential issues that affect the welfare and the safety of Americans. I mean, it is an incontrovertible fact that in 4 years you had over 14 million illegal aliens come through a border that was basically erased by the federal government, a completely illegal act. I guess I'm wondering, where the hell was the concern for due process then?
But that's a whataboutism argument.
No, but it's not a whataboutism argument.
Yes, it is, I think.
Well, here's
Sounds
why.
Like it. Okay, tell me.
Well, here's why it's not. You didn't give a crap about coming across the border and now you're saying, oh, due process. Due process, you can't touch me. It cannot work that way.
But that's a government problem, not the individual's problem. You have to compartmentalize it because the government screwed up. And yes, Biden, I believe that. I do. It was criminal. It was horrible. And we needed to pass legislation. Well, no, you got another president within 2 weeks dropped illegal entry by 96%. So you lied once again, and you're full of it. And so I get that, but I mean,
it is the government's problem, and now the government, ironically, is trying to fix that problem, and the courts are stepping in the way, really making the same argument that the previous failed government had made. Okay, and this is, I guess, what I'm saying. Where does this actually get fixed? Because this is not like the tariffs. There's economic ambiguity in the country. Okay, and Trump the Trump administration is in that tussle right now to try to persuade Americans. There is no such need for persuasion right now on this issue. Americans are overwhelmingly in favor of getting illegal aliens out of here. And they're not going to just any illegal alien and doing this. They have designated certain organizations as foreign terrorist organizations.
Do you trust the government to do that?
There is a fact.
Do you trust the government to do that?
You want to use Abrego Garcia as an example?
I don't care. Do you trust the government to do that? Well, I'm asking you just a question. Do you trust? I don't trust the government. End of story. Period. And I think conservatives think that way too. So now we trust the government? I don't care that Trump runs it.
No, that's not what
It's a process that has to be established past Trump. It's not about Trump or Biden. I mean, it is, I understand, because we feel the pain or the joy of whatever. It's about a process set up that surpasses any individual or party.
Yes, I trust the government on this issue. Okay. There's lots of things I don't trust. I don't just say I don't trust the government in anything. I would never say that. Whenever I say I don't trust the government,
what did Reagan say about the government knocking at your door if they came to help you?
Yes, well, and it's interesting. So I guess we shouldn't trust Reagan when he says that? I mean, obviously he was saying that within parameters. He was exercising parameters when he said that.
Oh, I know there's context. I get it.
Okay, so I think that matters in this conversation.
What I'm saying, though, is I either trust the government as an entity as a whole, not 100% no. I trust them when they're going to defend us against a war. I trust them in certain, of course.
And that's what I'm saying. And that analysis pertains to this, because there's no lack of evidence. Remember, Democrats here.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that about Garcia. I'm talking about a process, not evidence on whether he was designated appropriately or whether he should be deported. He should be deported. I think it's embarrassing for the Democrats to take on this notion now of their due process defenders now, and they didn't care about parents. They don't care about this. They don't care about due process. They sure as hell don't care about due process during the Me Too movement.
Exactly.
Because the Me Too movement, look, I'm with you on this one. On the Me Too movement, that was a lack of due process. Just because anybody says, this happened to me, all of a sudden believe them no matter what. Where's your due process now, jackass? I mean, so I get it. I mean, I can make that argument as strong as anyone else. I'm just saying, aside from all of that stuff, I want to be consistent about my principle about understanding fundamental fair play.
I got it, but there's no evidence that any of that has been breached here at all.
Well, the Supreme Court 9-0 said it was.
I don't care. It's a crappy decision.
Now you don't care? I mean, brother.
I'm saying I don't. I'm not going to say, oh, okay. I'm going to say no. It's completely nonsensical because they are not. This is not a standard issue. I can't believe that they can't decipher the difference between a foreign terrorist organization where these people are basically combatants in the United States, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. This isn't just some illegal alien who's been rounded up unfairly.
9-0 includes who else?
No, 9-0 is not what they said this morning. And what I'm saying,
I know, but 9-0 on Garcia because we're going back and forth.
They didn't weigh in on the merits of the Alien Enemies Act on that ruling.
I didn't
they
say
said that it was a venue issue.
They said it was a due process issue because they all said bring him back or facilitate him back. I get all that.
Facilitate.
All I'm saying is Alito's in that 9-0. So is Thomas, and we both respect him very much as conservative judges.
Correct.
Amy Barrett got it. She depends how the wind comes. I mean, everybody, but those two. So there's something to be said about the process. So what they're saying is you should have had a hearing, and then give a hearing, give him a chance to defend himself. A judge says, okay, I'm going to side with the government because this has been designated as a terrorist organization by Mr. Garcia. Now they don't have a due process problem. That's all they're saying. They skipped a step. I'm all for the steps. That's all. I mean, I agree with that decision.
Yeah,
I think it should still go.
Yeah,
no doubt.
At the end of the day, the facilitate. I mean, how's that actionable?
Well, that's different. I agree. That's separate issues.
Well, they're not idiots. When they used the word facilitate, they knew exactly that it meant nothing because it really doesn't mean anything if you think about it. How are they going to They didn't want to use effectuate. They wanted to use facilitate.
I agree with that.
At the end of the day, facilitate can't be effectuated. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I got it. I'm not against due process. What I'm against is the inability to distinguish between two materially and categorically different things. The president of the United States did methodically. He said, look, at the end of the day, national security is my concern. Americans are overwhelmingly in favor of mass deportations. Mass deportation.
Got it.
On this issue, the Supreme Court is on the 10 side of the 90-10 spectrum. And I think it's a misuse of the Constitution of the United States. I do.
They're not saying that. No, they're not saying I'm on the 100% side of mass deportations. I'm just on be very careful. When you start saying mass to me, everybody gets I want to make sure there's a process set up to make sure it's done properly. Because I'm a truth scavenger, as I've said many times before. I want the truth to prevail. And I want to make sure that justice reigns. And justice means, did we get it right? When people ask me when I first became DA, what do you think is going to keep you up at night? And I'm going to say whether we got it right. That's it. That's all that matters. I made death penalty decisions. I made life in prison decisions. I made dismissal decisions. I made a lot of pretrial diversion decisions. I want to make sure we get it right. Now, we're human. We're flawed. I get it. All I'm saying is the Supreme Court said we have to have a process. You skipped a step. That's it. Now, what's the harm analysis? That's separate. You skipped a step. Why can't we just say we skipped a step? But his ass is still going anyway.
What step was skipped with Abrego Garcia?
Because there was a withholding order. You had a valid, not withdrawn withholding order that said he cannot be sent away.
Okay, the question is, does that withholding order, because this actually wasn't deliberated during the case. This is the problem.
That's the problem. It was a skip step.
Is it a problem when MS-13? Hold on, it's a legitimate question. Okay. Is it a problem when MS-13 is designated a foreign terrorist organization and it is now wholly in a national security apparatus? It is no longer the concern of domestic courts. So the courts can.
How did you find that out?
What?
Was that determined?
Absolutely was determined.
By whom?
Which part? All of it was determined. Which part?
There's not a court directive saying now you don't. This withholding order has been absolved because these people are designated. You have to have that step to designate that. That's what the Supreme Court said. You skipped that step. That's all they're saying. Not that he wasn't going to go anyway.
If they would have taken that into consideration, this would have never even.
None of this would be here if they would have just said, this dude, wait. Have a hearing. Give him whatever the notice is in court, 10-day notice, 5-day notice. You can expedite this stuff. And then say, okay, withholding order. The court, what does the government say? The government says this withholding order is invalid. Why? Because this organization that you have determined, judge, and a previous court has determined is a terrorist organization. So this withholding order does not. You know what? Defense, what's your claim? Blah, 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 blah. Back and forth, government defense. Well, here's my ruling. You know what? I'm going to side with the government. You're right. This withholding order has been withdrawn now because of this claim and this determination of MS-13 by Mr. Garcia. That's due process to me. That's what I think was missed. And that's what the Supreme Court says what should have happened. And that's what I agree with. Now, his ass was still going. And he should go. and he's not this great citizen. Now there's a whole cultural side to this. So there's a legal analysis and there's a cultural analysis. Now the cultural analysis is, please spare me the river and the violins. Please spare me your crap. This senator going over there and I'm going to save this dude. Now, and how he got out and how he had this photo op and now there's Margarita Gate and all this other crap out there. Whatever. These are all separate issues to me. I need to compartmentalize them so I'm analyzing everything and it's not getting jumbled together. That's my way my mind thinks.
We're going to use a technicality in the Abrego Garcia case to muddle up.
It's not a technicality. Due process is not a technicality, Dad.
Yeah,
it's not.
I think under the circumstances, it is a technicality. Nothing changes. The outcome doesn't change one damn bit.
But
I got it. The process, withholding order. I don't understand. I don't. And really, it's a legitimate question. Maybe you know. Maybe you can ask Patrick. I don't know. But I need an answer to this question.
Which one?
Because I think the whole thing hinges on it. Once there's a designation of a group, of an illegal group in the United States that is a foreign terrorist organization, meaning they are conducting operations against the interests and safety and security of the United States. Once they're designated such, it becomes more of a military concern. This cannot be washed through domestic courts. It is insane. And the Alien Enemies Act, in substance, and I'd like anybody to find me any evidence to contest this, is a complete renege of the domestic court system. You are entitled by law to go around it. That's the whole point. Otherwise, it'll literally take you a century to get rid of these people that have no fundamental right to be here. And are they coming in, and they're not just sapping American services, but they're now you have this mass exploitation of American law for uses that it was never intended to be.
You know what the Patriot Act is, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, remember that was abused too after 9/11. And for good reason. And then everybody's being spied on and everything is this. And then everybody's bitching about it, but everybody was for it at first. And then say, hold on, I got buyer's remorse now. That's all I'm saying. We've got to be careful. What is justice? When people say, how can you defend someone that's guilty? Well, there's three aspects to justice to me. Number one is the government pointing at the right person. That's what everybody focuses on. Number two, did they get there the right way? And that's due process. If they don't get there the right way and we can allow them to skip steps on the quote unquote guilty people because they're going to be deported anyway, then guess what they can skip? They can skip steps on the innocent person. And then everybody's, panties are in a twist. And then number three is the punishment equal and proportionate. We're going to talk about proportionality on the Karmelo Anthony deal in a second. Is it proportionate to the allegation? If you don't have all three aspects, then you don't have justice. And part of it is due process. What
I'm saying is that there's no evidence that due process isn't being followed for illegal aliens generally. But when an illegal alien is part of a foreign terrorist organization, that's got to be different.
Okay, we got to take a break. We will be right back. Stick with us. More on Sidebar.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Cars studio.
I'm Eric Lycum. It's 9:30 on News Radio 1200 WOAI. Republicans lash out at Democrats over the deported suspected El Salvadoran gang member they portray as a family man from Maryland. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together.
The WOAI Traffic Center.
Loop 1604 westbound off-ramp to Cal Parkway is closed due to construction. 35 southbound between AT&T Center Parkway and Walters, we've got that roadway closed due to an accident. I'm Alexis, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
A windy 82 coming later this afternoon. We've got clouds and 72 now. The WOAI 24-hour weather center. 9:31, our top story. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen visited El Salvador to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the suspected MS-13 gang member deported to a prison there. New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney criticized Van Hollen's visit, to whom she claims is a dangerous person.
The Democrats are clinging to someone involved in a dangerous gang that is involved in narco trafficking, human trafficking, murder, unrest in the streets, wreaking havoc all over these countries. And El Salvador solved its problem by getting rid of the gangs.
The Trump administration maintains it's unable to return Garcia without assistance from El Salvador. Garcia was living as an illegal immigrant in Maryland before his deportation. The federal government has pulled the plug on funding for high-speed rail in Texas, but backers say it's still alive. Andy Gent with the Texas Central Rail Project says the federal government's beef is not with the project, but with Amtrak. He says they plan to charge forward with private funding. Dallas ISD says it will post someone at every door of Wilmer Hutchins High School, the South Dallas campus, location of 2 school shooting incidents this past year. Superintendent Stephanie Elzadi says they will add personnel to ensure all 13 doors in the campus are staffed at all times when school is in session. News on demand at WOAI.com. Our next update, top of the hour, breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycum on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Lear Capital. Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA guide at betternestegg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to betternestegg.com.
1200 WOAI. Quite a little discussion there, young man. And that means that you better get on social media because we're going to continue this discussion. It'll be a little bit different once we get off the air.
I was going to say I'm going to abide by proper radio etiquette.
Good for you.
And I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch my Greek for now. But Nico, I think what's really bothering me, and I think a lot of Americans would echo this sentiment, considering how people feel about mass deportations and that they're largely, overwhelmingly in favor of Trump's approach. I think there's got to be a clear delineation. I think that was the point of the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. There's got to be a clear delineation between the cleaning lady who's here illegally and who can, of course, according to law, be deported and go through deportation hearings, and she is entitled by law to do so. And a foreign terrorist organization, which, as I said, is militant in nature, is criminal in nature, and is an existential threat to the country. And Trump has delineated between those two, and he is taking a decidedly military apprehension approach. There's no way in hell, it seems to me, that it's reasonable, constitutional to send those individuals through the same tiered process in the name of due process. It seems to me that we are covering up a grotesque injustice in the name of pursuing justice. And as long as we keep doing that, then it seems to me we'll be able to insulate ourselves from what I think is a proper analysis. Not that I have the answer here, but that's my worry. I'm genuinely worried about that.
But here's the problem. We both grew up at one point, number one, the sticks and stones can break my bones, but words don't never hurt me. Well, that doesn't apply anymore because words hurt everybody. And number two is 2 wrongs don't make a what?
Right.
Okay, well, 2 wrongs don't make a right. I mean, Martin Luther King advocated that. I mean, Jesus advocated that. We're talking about Resurrection Weekend, and our justice system advocates it. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Now we have the resources. Can we advocate? Can we streamline it? Can we expedite it? Yes, all those things. But you have to have steps, because when you have this, my concern is the government coming in and saying you're part of this organization. Well, how do you know that? Because I said so. When someone says that only works with 5-year-olds and your parents. Papi, why do I have to do this? Because I said so. That's it. And I believe in my mind, God says that to me. But Lord, why do I have to do this? Because I said so. Well, that's good enough. You're God. Now, government's not God. And so government doesn't get to say because I said so. There has to be a process. And that's my deal. And I want to preserve that process that will outlast Trump. Thankfully, thank God it had barely outlasted Biden and any other president down the road. That's my deal. Fundamental fair play, meaning notice, proper procedure, and a hearing. That's all I want. So I agree. Once you're designated properly in that organization, I am in front of you, not beside you, on get the hell out of here. But we got to get there the right way. If we don't get there the right way, we don't have justice. That's all. Now, what's the harm analysis? That's separate.
So you're saying that, and this is what because you got to play this out. I mean, when these people are determined to be foreign terrorist organizations, a threat, a national security threat, that is exclusively, and this is what I think is being missed here. I think ultimately Trump will prevail. The Alien Enemies Act places that authority exclusively in the executive branch. It precludes domestic courts being involved. It is completely non-jurisdictional. That's the rub here.
When was it used last, though? That's my concern.
But the act is the act. It states what it states.
I understand that, but there's
it is a wartime act, and Trump determined.
But we're not in war, though.
Actually,
but it wasn't
we
invasion.
Actually are. That's what he's saying. We act. See, this is the problem.
Do you think the act meant this versus war? It was back in the Civil. It was when Britain's coming over. It's a different war.
Well, yes, brother. I know, and they were different players in the Revolutionary War, so the context changes. Wars mean different things in different times. We didn't have the issues that we have back then either. So we got it. I mean, obviously, we have to be flexible with the context of the times. We obviously aren't thinking in Civil War terms. We're thinking in modern terms. And in modern terms, anybody who would sit there and say, we don't actually have a war on our hands, where we have a lot more. Remember, it was 11 million illegals 25 years ago. We're in the 40 to 50 million, and 14 million is just in the last 4 years.
In 10 years, another Biden on steroids becomes president. And he says there's an ideological civil war going on right now, and domestic terrorism is real. And parents that come to school boards, and you conservatives, and you people that are pro-life.
No, doesn't fit.
Well, hold on.
No,
I understand.
It's not categorically the same.
I get that, brother. I know that. I'm just trying to, this is where my mind goes.
I got it.
I'm playing it out. Because you have to have a process and step.
I know,
That's
and
all I'm saying.
I'm conceding what you're saying. People can say whatever they want to say, but it's categorically different. MS-13 and Tren de Aragua are causing existential physical. You know that physical harm to people, death for death in the civil war.
So
it's
arrest them, send them to Guantanamo. I don't care. Send them to wherever. Make another place that's worse. Make an El Salvador prison here, but give them their due process. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, don't worry. Guantanamo is going to be a problem too because it'll be a horrific place.
Again, all I'm saying, George, is we have to have a process. I want to make sure that we have proper designations. Because a government out of control is what? Out of control. And I want to, and the only way that you keep a government in control is a process. That's all. That's my position, and it seems like the Supreme Court agrees with that.
You want to protect the process that you would want it to protect you later.
Yes, I mean absolutely. Here, but what do I always say, Salo? And this applies to the Democrats, by the way. Be careful the world you. What is it? Attorney General James. Be careful the world you help create. We're gonna get there too. Because someday you're gonna have to live in it.
Yeah.
So now it doesn't matter who did your returns for you. It doesn't matter. Oh, okay, AG James. Let's see where the evidence takes you there.
What
lady.
I'm saying is that due process doesn't matter one damn bit if you're a foreign terrorist organization. Due process there looks because the Alien Enemies Act.
You got to determine that properly.
Due process looks different in case A versus case B. And that's what I'm saying. It's categorically different. I'm not arguing with you about due process generally, constitutionally. I'm talking when you are determined to be an enemy combatant. It is a national security, is an existential thing. Due process cannot be a tiered, multi-year process for 14 million people. And I'm not even talking about 14 million people. Whatever the designation is, they're not all foreign terrorists.
I deal with organizations that are labeled criminal gangs all the time. This is the first time that a criminal gang has been designated a terrorist. And so this is new. This is new territory. We just have to be careful. It's never been before. This is not Russia or China coming over our borders. So you have to be careful. That's all I'm saying. Because then what are you going to do? You're going to designate the Italian mafia and the Mexican mafia and Aryan Brotherhood and the Black Panthers and everybody else terrorists. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. If the people want that, then so be it. And
I agree.
You just got to be careful. Now you're dealing with citizens. Now you're dealing with American citizens. Yes. That if they're in an organization, they're still American citizens. So we have to be careful. That's all I'm saying. I truly, you know me, want to play this out. And then so we have to do that. This is new territory for us. That's it. That's my 2 cents.
All right. Sorry, Karen.
I agree, and we're going to continue this conversation when
Anthony?
Yes, please. No, I was thinking of Leticia James because you just said.
I think. Oh, that's fine.
You want to wait?
Well, I think Karmelo Anthony is such a big one, and it's an emotional.
Let's start it.
I mean, I want to talk about.
There's too many parts to this one too.
There's a lot here. So you want me to do my overview real quick, and then this is heavy legal this week, and so here we have a deceased and we have an accused. We have a suspect. Now we have an individual, the suspect, that went into a tent. Okay, it was raining. It's a track meet. Now, that's not criminal trespass by law. I'm going to go objectively here. And what I really want people to do is save your emotions. I mean, because I have personally dealt with the loss of a loved one.
Hard, yes.
So something can be inappropriate and not illegal.
That's right.
Yep.
So exactly. Right. I mean, it's just good. And just because something is permissible doesn't mean it's beneficial, right? Another biblical principle. So, and that applies to both sides, by the way. So you have an individual, and by the way, both kids, good students, both kids, head of their teams and football teams, both kids had potential scholarships. So this just sucks all the way around. There's no winners. And so you have a young man, the suspect, who comes into a tent. And it's not criminal trespass by law because nobody owns that tent. You're on public property, you're on school property. And then he's sitting there. Now you have this argument that whether the deceased should have gone up to him or not, or gone up to a teacher or a police officer, someone, and sent him to leave. Now what happened? All this stuff matters. It all matters on what force can be used and the degree of force, right? So there's going to be proportionality analysis. There's going to be provocation analysis. You can't provoke the difficulty and then claim self-defense. What's provocation? And so you have this the deceased saying, get out of here. How he says it probably matters too when it comes out before a jury. And then he says, get out of here. Well, did you have a legal reason, a legal authority to tell him to get out of here? Touch me, see what happens. Oh, that's provocation. Well, no, it's not. Not legally, in my opinion, from what I've heard so far. I'm happy to adjust when I see more evidence. Right now, we have a vague picture. We don't have a full picture. I've read the arrest warrant affidavit, and that's not the full picture. They just want to put just enough in there to get probable cause. That's it. You don't convict people on probable cause to arrest somebody. Well, then, so there's this back and forth jawing. Now, what matters is how many kids were around him. He's in quote-unquote enemy territory, right? Were there a bunch of jocks, menacing over him? Was it 3-on-1, 1-on-1? That matters on whether you can use what kind of force, right? And so the analysis on use of force is the reasonable belief of apparent danger, and is it imminent? Now, you remember, reasonable, apparent, and imminent. Not even actual. So reasonable, apparent, imminent. And then, was the force that you use, was it proportional, equal to the force being used against you? Those are the 4 elements that you're going to have to look at, or a jury's going to have to look at down the road. And then he puts his hand in there and says, punch me and see what happens. Okay? Now, was that a light provocation, or was that a warning? Hey, get the hell away from me. Don't touch me, man. You don't have a right to touch me. I don't know. Were there 4 jocks there, big dudes? Or was there just one? Was it, hey guy, can you just leave? Or was it, hey, get the F out of here, MFer. You don't belong here. I don't know. But there's video, and there's a lot of witnesses, and there's going to be a lot of witness statements. And then there's the use of force. Now we have to look at the proportionality here in a little while. I know you want to go to break.
I know, and I keep on asking, when are you going to bring up the knife? When are you going to start mentioning the knife?
I said with the use of force, and then you cut me off.
Well, that's because we have to take a break.
Karen,
hey,
you're a Karen. You're an actual Karen.
She's honoring Karen. She's honoring Karen.
She's an actual Karen.
Nico, if you say anything, do you want to prove what I have?
Yeah, come on, bring it on.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we will be right. I'm getting out of here. We'll be right back with more. You got to stick with us. This is Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
Other ways.
Hey. Here we go. We're on the air. Stop
good.
whatever y'all are doing. Oh, I cannot believe you called me a Karen.
Wait, was that your name?
No, there's my name.
Call my name.
And then there's a Karen.
Sorry. What do you identify as, Karen?
Hey, Karen, I want to thank Karen. That sounds weird. I want to thank everybody that's watching, either on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. And thank you for watching. Thank you for making comments. Thank you for making comments. Thank you for tagging other friends that several people have mentioned that they love. Somebody, Camilo and Julio and my wife are watching, and they say that they love hearing two people that they agree on many things when they have moments that they can actually debate or have difference of opinions. And that's awesome, because that's what we want to provoke. That let's talk about.
We don't see that anymore.
We don't see that anymore. And I've seen it on the threads now, because I don't know, like if you watch let's say a conservative podcast, your mind goes into, okay, it's safe for me to comment here. And then if you go into another one, you're like, I can't comment on this one because it's going to be dangerous. But on this one, I see a lot of people, like, they don't agree, they agree. but they feel okay in saying, you know what, let me give you my opinion. And it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, well, I mean, but just you posted this one, and there's some people out there. I mean, like, I like
intense.
Mark. I like Mark Antoine. I mean, I like him overall.
Yeah.
I mean, he's respectful and that. But that guy Luis Gaitan, whatever his name is, I mean, he just starts name calling people and me, and I was like, hey, I won't say what I'll say. I'll say after the show.
Thank you.
But I mean, hey, jackass. I mean, you didn't even hear my opinion yet.
Yeah.
You don't even know what
Yeah.
I mean, can you know the difference between marketing versus an opinion? There's a question mark in the marketing. So it's your fault, Salo.
thank you.
We
Yeah.
get so much crap from people.
Yeah.
But we need to be able to talk and disagree with people. I mean, we love Alamo Talk when he comes on here. I want people that disagree with our ideology or worldview to just have conversation.
You haven't gone to eat with Alamo Talk?
I've offered it. He said yes one time, but I mean, I think we will
It's
someday.
impressive because he gives a lot of his opinions, and sometimes he doesn't agree with the show. But I love it because he's shared a lot of our. He shares our
he's very
posts.
respectful
That's
too.
amazing.
We always have to look. If we're going to change hearts and minds, we have to welcome them to the arena of ideas. Have them share it. Do it in a way that honors both sides. And look, the other side does it too. And they call names, and you're this, and the lawyer that doesn't like due process. You obviously have never listened to a show then. I mean, so obviously today's the example. But I'm just saying. So it's this name calling because they want to. There's that word marginalize you, put you in a corner, and when you call someone a name, they go, I don't have to listen to you because you're this or that, and then you offer them a discussion, and they don't want to discuss anything. So I guess they don't care about due process.
They cross that line of having conversation.
It's terrible, man. I mean, look, we're never going to.
This year is 16 years that we've been friends, and we've had disagreements throughout that time, and intensely so. And I got to say,
intense fellowship.
Negative fellowship, right? And every time those disagreements serve to remind me why we're friends.
That's good. That's good.
Because the reality is, if a goodwill antagonist makes you a better person, that's how it's supposed to work.
Well, that's biblical, right? Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do, even with people that disagree with us. Because we got to live together. Because guess what? We're all going to be on the same page if China starts shooting missiles at us, if Russia invades, if all that. We're all 9/11, like I always say about 9/12. Nobody cared about what side you were on.
Yeah.
We were just trying to survive. And so
I'm going to be like, Nico, I don't care your pronouns. Let's fight.
I don't care if you're friends with Karen over here. So on Karmelo Anthony, Karen.
Yes.
I mean, this is going to come down to that analysis on use of force, and the situation is very specific. I always use the example if George is in a coffee shop, we're all in a coffee shop, and someone walks in with a black trench coat. I use this in jury selection too. Walks in and says, "Everyone in this effing coffee shop deserves to die," and then reaches behind their back. I'm not sitting there going, "Hey, George, I wonder if he's got a gun in there."
Right.
I'm drawing, I'm going center mass, and I'm releasing rounds. And then let's say during the investigation, they check, and what he was reaching for is a journal. And in that journal, it had all the reasons why everyone at a coffee shop should effing die. Well, I didn't know that. So reasonable belief of apparent danger, and was it imminent? That wasn't even actual danger. It was apparent danger. Now, same scenario. Same dude walks in butt-ass naked and says, "Everyone in this coffee shop needs to effing die," and starts reaching back. Well, unless I think he's got a bomb in his ass, I mean, I can't shoot him. Same actually scenario, but big factor is it wasn't reasonable anymore, and I wasn't in imminent danger. So my analysis changes. So, and now if he walks in and he starts yelling at you, someone walks up to George and the lovely Stephanie at a restaurant. Oh, I wouldn't use them. Let's say use Fulano. So Fulano's there with his wife, and someone walks in, "Hey, Fulano, your wife's a bitch. Can you punch him?" Now, in the court of manhood, you do, but in a court of law, you cannot. Now, you may be able to articulate, he was reaching for his pocket, he got in my space, he was too close to my wife, he had the audacity to come up to us in a public restaurant to call her a bitch, then he's bold enough to hit her. He was too close to her. Now, could you shove him versus punch him? More acceptable. Then he pulls out a weapon. Now you can pull out a weapon. You see how the escalation on the use of force changes? It's very specific. You can be right in one term, and then in the middle of it, you're wrong. Someone says, "Hey, you know what? Your wife's a bitch. Well, I'm going to kick your ass. You know what? Let's fight. Mutual combat. You agree to fight. Then you punch him, you knock him out, then you start stomping on his head with your boot until he's brain damaged. Well, now you've committed a crime because you stopped the imminent threat. And now you continued it.
But are the details in that case this complicated, though? Because if
they're unknown. It's not that they're complicated. They're unknown.
Based on what's known right now, because they've released a police report, right? I mean,
brother, I believe none of what I read.
A knife at a track meet.
I believe none.
I mean, even if you weren't a lawyer,
but the police report's going to matters. I mean, it matters because they had a body cam on.
That's after the fact. That's all after. So it matters on taking witness statements to body cam.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. They took a bunch of witness statements. They do seem to converge. There doesn't seem to be any sort of blatant contradiction here.
But there's video.
You and I were chatting briefly during break, and I said it does seem by the time it all it's all said and done, it does seem that this ultimately is going to come down to a disproportionate use of force.
Maybe.
Because unless,
I don't know. I'm not there yet.
Unless it's a situation where Metcalf was on top of him, beating the crap from guys bleeding to death. I mean,
no.
Well, he reaches into a bag.
If you're
to
walking
grab a
from
knife.
Stephanie, if you're walking with Stephanie from the restaurant that you went to this week.
Well, I have a question. I want to get to my question real quick, and then I'll shut up. I mean, he comes into a track meet. He's got a knife in the bag. I don't know.
Was it a I Do we know that for sure?
Yes.
Hold on. Did we find it? Because I heard it was a cleat cleaner.
Yes, they found it. They did.
Okay, then
I was going to get that real quick.
Okay.
Real quick. Bear with me. And so he uses the knife. He throws it and walks away from the scene. And he's sitting there when the cop shows up. And that's when he said, now infamously said, it's not alleged, I did it.
Right.
But he threw the knife. They found the knife, and it's been taken into evidence. And he admitted that.
I agree.
He has admitted that.
I agree.
And then he was asking questions, as you know, whether this could be a legitimate self-defense claim and so forth. And I guess what I'm saying is that's a good place to start. I mean, why are you bringing a knife to a track meet? It's
Why
a good
are you
question.
going under the tent?
Why are you reaching into? I mean, from all of the witness statements that I've read, unless there's more, and I realize that dust is settling on this. This is why I'm always a little. You and I were talking about, should we talk about this? Because I'm always wondering about the dust not completely settling. And so why is he reaching into a bag to grab? I mean, he's reaching into a bag to grab a knife, and turns around and stabs him in the chest. And so, unless he was in danger for his life,
no, then it doesn't have to be or in fear of serious bodily injury or death. If I'm threatening to punch, I want to understand. If I'm threatening to punch you, or if I punch you, you can come back and stab me in the heart. No, I didn't say that. Well, it depends. If Karen can, because she's. She's a woman. Women get more deference on that because of yes, absolutely. Wow. And if there's 5 people against 1, people have been bludgeoned to death with boots and punches. I mean, I've many cases where we're prosecuting manslaughter and all kinds of other things. And whether is this manslaughter or murder? I mean, that's another discussion.
There's going to be a tall evidentiary hurdle to jump over that.
Which one?
To say that in fact he felt like his life was in danger. I mean, I think that's going to be a tall hurdle to jump.
I don't know yet. All I'm saying, again, I'm being consistent. I don't know yet. I haven't seen the evidence.
Well, what the police report said...
I don't care about what it says.
But the eyewitnesses corroborated that from his brother on, that he put his hand on him, shoved him, that there was a shove.
So Metcalf committed a Class C misdemeanor.
That there was a shove.
There was a Class C, at least a Class C misdemeanor.
Yeah, and I just want to say right up front, I am not suggesting that Austin Metcalf didn't play any role in this. That would be nuts. I think he did. I think there's some culpability. The question I said, it seems to me, and hopefully I'm not trying to oversimplify this, Nico,
okay.
is that it ultimately is going to come down to an excessive use of force. You can't go around.
Maybe. All I'm saying, and let me see why. I get on the surface.
Well, break it down for me how it is.
I'm just trying to. If you're walking to your car, and 3 people approach you in the parking lot, you're putting your hand on your gun. You're putting it under your jacket.
So how does that tie to this?
Well, he put his hand in his coat and in his bag, and I'm just saying, if there's 4 football players, we don't know what they said. I want to see that video. They said there's video of this stuff. Forget the police report, forget the witness statements. Do they corroborate the video? The video is going to be your best evidence.
Got it. So you're saying Metcalf what did he do?
Okay, so we have an order. Again, remember, feelings aside, objectivity.
Okay, yeah.
So Karmelo Anthony is in a tent.
Yes.
Not illegally.
Correct.
Okay, so there's no criminal trespass. There's no authority to tell him to leave.
Sure.
It's just a preference. I prefer you leave. It's raining outside. Is there a common courtesy between athletes? I don't know. We'll talk about that.
And you could argue who made Metcalf the tent supervisor. I got it.
All of that, yes.
All that, sure.
Walking under the tent of the rival team, that's not any sort of provocation?
How is that provocation?
Because you're on the rival team's side.
So? I mean, legally, show me in the penal code where that's provocation.
We're not talking legally, brother.
Now,
We're talking propriety.
Your yard, I walk into your house, different story. I open the door to your car, different.
Now, hold on a second, but it's stepwise. I mean, things don't just become illegal.
I know that, but I was answering Karen's question.
Is impropriety that led to illegality? No? I mean, is it appropriate for somebody? I think it's not. If we sit here, I think it's a great idea to go to the rival's tent and just be there. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
It's a what could go wrong standard.
If he's walking in there saying, F all you people from this school who wants to take me, different ball game. Was he just trying to get out of the rain? I don't know. It was raining.
Won't the prosecution argue intent? That why was he? Karmelo, he has a knife. He's going there to provoke.
Okay, now we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Is it standard for people to carry a knife to clean off your cleats when you got mud in your cleats at a track meet? I don't know. Now, does it mean it's legal? Look, it's not illegal for a minor to carry a knife as long as the blade is not bigger than 5.5 inches.
Got it.
Now there is going to be a property restriction. Now, there's going to be a restriction. You can't carry that minor or adult on school property because it's a school event. That's a different issue. You see what I'm saying? You have to carve back. And I heard, I don't know, it wasn't verified. You just gave me new information that it might have been a cleat cleaner to clean your cleats out. Now, do kids, and more than one kids, do coaches, do people have little pocket knives to clean out your cleats? I don't know yet. I'm not saying that's the case.
I played soccer for most of my young life, and I often had crap in my cleats. I remember using my pen.
No, I got it, brother.
Fair enough. I got it.
I'm just giving you the objective analysis. I'm not taking a side. I'm not taking a side.
And it should be done. I mean, if you're going to get to justice, it should be picked
I was answering your question. So if 3 or 4 football players came up to him and said, we don't know, it matters what they said.
Okay.
And if he says, hey, stay away from me, man, don't touch me, see what happens. And he puts his hand in he didn't pull it out, he had his hand in his bag. I'm just telling you what a defense lawyer is going to do.
Yeah, of course.
And then he now I agree, there's reports, and I would take that caution, there's reports that Metcalf touched him. Now, was it a yank? Was it a pull? Was it a shove? Was it a punch? Was it a threat of a punch? Was it a punch shove? Was it a pull? And then he pulls him into him saying, I told you to get the F out of here. And then he was already close to him, so he stabs him really quick. Because what we knew, in the reports, back to your point, is Karmelo says, hey, is he okay? He's asking how he's okay. So he obviously wasn't intending to kill him. He was intending to do something, to use force to get away. That's how it's going to be argued, at least.
Yeah, and then
so now, even if it's inappropriate for him to use that force, and we'll talk about this on the after show, by the way. We'll keep dissecting this and take questions. Even if it's not proportional, now what's the punishment? Now that's a different issue. Yeah. Is it a 2 to 20 versus 5 to 99 or life? And then we'll talk about the bond, because there's so many conservatives that were talking so irresponsibly about the bond amounts.
We're going to talk about it on Wednesday.
We're going to talk about it on Wednesday on R-Rated Christianity. Yep.
We're having a guest. Marquise Cox is going to be with us to talk about this.
We'll do it from a Christian point of view. But look, guys, join us on the after show. We're going to wait about 30 seconds to give you time to get over there. Thank you. Have a very blessed resurrection celebration for those that are Christian. Those that are not, enjoy your families. God bless you. Please share this with someone you think may benefit from it. Bye-bye.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
This is News Radio 1200.
Test. Yep. Hello. I can't hear.
Hello, test. Why not? What?
I can't hear.
Now yours isn't pushed in?
No, I'm good. It's just going to get.
Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me now? I can hear myself now. Okay, good.
Okay.
You can hear me now?
All right.
All right. So what's going on?
Well, I was just reading some of the comments and I have to laugh. One is Ruthie can't wait for the next live event, but she wants to know if there will be a margarita machine.
Wow.
You'll have it with the
Not
senator
sure if that's
and
a
Garcia.
compliment
Stryker said following over at the end of the show, he's joining us now on social media. David says, we all got our 2 cents worth today. Bravo. And, of course, Ernest says, oh, boy, Nico is such a lawyer this morning. Are you in the middle of a tough case or something?
I'm kind of a lawyer all the time, whether I'm a prosecutor or a defense attorney, and I'm always in the middle of a tough case. But we don't lose that analysis.
No,
this is the objective analysis.
Says that because a lot of people get so mad because that part of you, because you're so passionate all the time, but the part of you that's the attorney always takes over, even when like me as a non-lawyer says, why would a kid bring a knife in his bag, even
No,
if
I think he frustrates the emotional part of us.
Yes.
Because we see a lot of things emotionally first.
Yes,
And then you get a
yes.
Nico that's like, okay, wait, let's stop at that word.
Well, but we
Let's stop
can't.
at-
I mean,
yeah.
I don't live in that world. I mean, I remember I
Exactly.
made life and death decisions as DA. I couldn't do it emotionally.
No.
I mean, I made death penalty decisions. I
Start
made
crying.
life in prison
Right.
decisions. I made prosecutorial. I made dismissal decisions, pretrial diversion, giving someone an opportunity to turn their life around. I made all these decisions. I can't, and there's always emotions on both sides.
Yeah.
So someone's got to be non-emotional, and so that's all I'm saying. Passion's different. And so there's the legal analysis, there's the cultural analysis, the argument of, well, if that was the other way around, and if it was a white kid that killed a black kid, forget about it. Frisco would be burned down. Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And that's
But
sucks.
they still made it racist.
And that's bullshit, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
But we're still doing it. And there's another argument about Dominique Alexander, that guy that ran the presser for the family, and whether the family should have been there, and whether the dad had the right to be there.
That hurts
I mean,
me.
there's so much to talk about here, and I have an opinion about it all. All I'm saying is I'm just giving you the objective analysis, and I could give you the prosecutor side, and I can give you the defense attorney side. And I don't know which one's going to prevail yet because I don't have all the evidence. All I'm saying, all this stuff matters. I think you read out, Karen, someone said, what if Karmelo's walking by and he knows one person in there? Or maybe he says, hey, that girl's pretty. Hey, do you mind? And he's like, I'm not here to cause any trouble, because there's no evidence in the reports that say that he went in there talking shit to anybody. He just was in there. Was it raining? Was it raining? He's like, oh shit, let me get in here. And then it's like, oh, it's not letting up. And then he sit down. Hey man, you're not here. You don't belong here. It's raining outside. I want to know what the exchange was. That matters when you're talking about the provocation of a fight or some type of conflict. And then were there three more jocks behind him? Or jocks or whatever dudes behind him. Hey guys, stay away from me. Hey man, touch me, see what happens. And he's got to use verbiage to protect himself. Hey, we told you to get the fuck out of here. Maybe they said that. Hey, touch me, see what happens. Hey guys, get close to my wife, see what happens. And he's got his hand on his gun. Are you provoking the situation?
How much intimidation?
I mean,
yeah.
All I'm saying is be careful the world. What does the law say? And so you have three people in a parking lot, in a dark parking lot. That's deadly force. At nighttime for sure. But I mean, just even in the daytime, they could beat your ass to death. You don't know what they have on them or what they could do. All I'm saying is it's not so simple, because all that got out there was an unarmed boy was stabbed by a guy with a knife. And then I can't believe it. Anybody else would be in jail the whole time. $1 million bond is not appropriate for a murder charge. In San Antonio, $150,000. So now what are you going to do? $150,000 is a normal bond for murder. In San Antonio, every district.
I didn't know that. That does bring a new
Yes,
piece
I mean
of
even Megyn
information.
Kelly and all these
didn't
other
know
people,
that.
and Tim Pool and all these people that I like Megyn more than I like Tim Pool, but I don't dislike him. But just shut the fuck up until you find someone that knows what they're talking about. Everyone was. I kept watching stuff. It's like, you guys are just wrong. And reckless means intent. No, reckless means reckless, and that's manslaughter. Intent means intent. That's murder. I mean, so, and then provocation, you're provoking someone by saying, touch me, see what happens. Well, no, that's not provocation. That's like someone walking up to George at Ruth Chris or wherever you went to. Hey, George, get out of here. Get out of here. You don't have the right to tell me to get out of here. Yeah, well, I'm going to make you get out of here. Touch me, see what happens. Now it's different. Now all of a sudden George wants a Nico LaHood analysis, or Ernest, or anybody else that's got their 2 cents, and which you're entitled to your 2 cents. All I'm saying is we have to pause until we get all the evidence.
I honestly, he usually doesn't carry that knife.
What?
What if they can prove that he?
How is that relevant? So you're going to try to use it to say that he intended to go kill somebody with it?
He got a knife, went to that place. I'm normally
well,
not
man,
there.
you're making a huge leap. What if your aunt had balls? She'd be your uncle. You better just slow down. Well, not these days. Slow down.
Yeah, I don't think that holds anymore.
I got to start using a different example.
Used to work.
Different example. All I'm saying is we have to slow down. Now you see what you just did, Salo? What if? Our justice system should not function on what if. Now, if the evidence backs up the what if, that's fine.
Got it.
So that's all. What were you saying, George? I cut off.
Yeah, I mean, look, my preference is to, and he knows this about me. I mean, it's what he does for a living. But on this, in situations like this, I always like. I mean, with Kyle Rittenhouse, with George Floyd, with this. I mean, any kind of situation like this that has the ingredients to become racialized or to become misinterpreted through a political lens, I usually just really like for the dust to settle. Because we know enough to be dangerous.
Yep.
And unless you have a criminal defense attorney that can take the little bit that we have and try to make do a sensible analysis of it, I think people just ought to stay the fuck away from it. I do. I think it's bad news.
What is?
I mean, the fomenting and the what you see on social media. I mean, it's people are at each other's throats rhetorically.
It's terrible. Yeah. It's terrible.
This doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. And I think what's getting lost here is that ultimately this is getting racialized. You can see it. There's
from day one.
There's undertones, and it's not so much now overtones of racialization in this whole thing. Now there is. I think there's a valid argument to be made that if this was the other way around racially, Frisco would be in ashes. I think it's reasonable to conclude that based on what happened post Floyd, and that is a tragedy. And the media's double standard here in terms of the attention that they pay to a case, I think is also glaring to me. Those are the real injustices here that we might comment on. But in terms of the facts of the case, you're right.
There's too much. We don't know.
There's just so much we don't know.
Now, what do I think it may boil down to, George? I mean, look, it seems like it's heading down the road of proportionality analysis.
What I said.
It seems, well, brother, I got to get there the right way. You got it. I said seems. Know what I'm saying? Seems, because I don't know yet. We have to have all the evidence.
No,
multiple attackers matter. Provocation matters, because when there's going to be a strong argument that the provocation was Metcalf. And his brother and his other people that were there.
Well, I
that's
think
going to be the argument, and I think there could be the legitimate
I don't see
of that.
even I thought that would be the case. I mean, it takes two to tango. I mean, Metcalf could have walked away. He could have said, "Well, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I might ask a question. Hey man, I don't know you. Whatever." But to confront somebody like that, that's not an icebreaker. You're asking for trouble. I mean, Now, does that mean you should be stabbed in the heart? No. But I mean, if it was my son, I would say, hey, man, honestly, why is it your business, really, technically? I mean, just leave him alone. I mean, unless you think he's...
Get a teacher, get whatever. And they're going to be in the same boat because he said, I don't want to leave. Get a cop. Then the cop will ask you, look, just leave. All I'm saying, look, I deal with stabbings at schools all the time. This really shouldn't be a national issue. It really shouldn't. It's the race. It's the ethnicity undertones on this. That's the part that has been unfortunate.
And I think that's the point I'd like to.
There's stabbings at school events all the time.
We need to vet through that on R-rated this coming with Marquise. We need to work through this because we're at a point now where it's like we can't have a rational, fact-based, calm, helpful, constructive conversation where there is a racial element. Because everything has been turned into racial.
We all have PTSD.
It's all everybody's in their racial camp, and that is so dangerous and so pathetic, and I think it's demonic, frankly. The amount of damage that you do to human beings. I'm worried about injustices in the aftermath of what happened to Karmelo Anthony and his family, and I'm worried about Austin Metcalf not getting justice as well. I'm worried for both. Yeah. I'm worried for both.
I think we did. We just laid out the legal side of it, but then the cultural side of this. I mean, people are going after both sides, and they're getting swatted. And look, the dad came out. I thought he was ridiculously gracious initially on the first day, already saying, "I forgive the person. When this is this, let's not do this." I mean, I was like, man, this dude is amazing. That is not the norm. And of course, the mom and the brother went on different media outlets and talked about things which. I mean, if I'm the defense, I'm looking at their statements, and that could come back and bite you depending on what you said. I didn't watch them all, obviously, but
the dad from the beginning said he was worried about it getting racialized.
I agree. Yes,
that was a good message. I think
it was a good message, but it happened already, and because they were quiet, and then I don't know why he showed up to the press conference.
Well, I know, but getting thrown out. Do you think that's? It brought so much attention to that he was even there. Nobody would have even noticed.
We got to dissect.
No, but I think it's ironic that he shows up, and it's really the same argument you're making for Karmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony walks into a tent. Technically, it's not illegal.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
Okay, so
because somebody owns that building.
Okay,
but you're talking about
is it not open to the public?
Well, until the owner says it's not, and that's what happened. That's why it took an hour to start late. My understanding is the owner said, "Get out," and the cops came and said, "Sir, please just leave."
And he left.
I know, brother. I'm just saying. Okay. But why did he show up in the first? If I was his lawyer, I would have told him not to go.
He showed up. Oh, fair enough.
Because people are saying he has a right to be there. Well, no, you don't have a right to be there. He doesn't have a right to be there.
He showed up to hear what was being discussed.
But it was a press conference. You're going to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to miss it. It's not like it's if it was a court setting, he has a right to be there.
I don't know, man. Was it being televised? Was it?
Yes, there was cameras there. It was everything. Why do you think we have so much video footage of this? It's a press conference. Yes, it was. So I'm just saying, it was not a wise. Can he go? Yes. Did he have a right to be there? No. Should he have gone? In my humble opinion, no, because of these emotions. And then that guy Dominic Alexander is an opportunistic to me, and not because of his past, because of his present. Shyster.
Yeah.
Shyster. Because the way he did, I don't like to attack a grieving dad, but this shows his character and he dishonors his son. Fuck you. Yeah. I mean, that was stupid for him to say. And if I was the parents of Karmelo Anthony, I would say, please get the hell away from me now. Yeah. Now you're going to make me. The mom's statements didn't bother me. She's scared. She's emotional. This is a 2-parent household. Which people always rag on black families not having two. Yep. They have 2 parents. She invoked God's name. They raised their kids, and then people just jumped the gun and said they'll buy a $900,000 home, and he's driving an Escalade. He's in the car business. They take cars home. So that wasn't money that was spent. That was donated. So there was just so much emotion. That's why I say, can we please pause? Can everybody slow down and make objective analysis of what we have before us when we get it before us? Because your opinion may change. That happens all the time in trials. In jury selection, people think one thing. You tell people indecency with a child contact or sexual assault of a child or murder or whatever, and then you see the jury when the state's saying it, they're looking. And I say that to wit. I go, guys, I wish I had a camera to view your faces. As soon as the state read the charge, most people just turned. This is what we call a cold water accusation. It just shocks your conscience. But our position is so-and-so is innocent. You know that, right? And then you just see their faces changing. We're taking the position, not 90%, he's innocent or not guilty or whatever the verbiage you want to use. And you see the change in the mindset during jury selection, then opening statements, and when you start telling you where the roadmap or the evidence is going to go, then you see jurors like, oh, okay, well, it's not what you said, and that's not what you oversold me, government, or you oversold me, defense. And that's why I said we have to make analysis objectively as the evidence comes in. So I'm doing it separately. I'm doing the cultural versus the legal. The press conference, I get it. I mean, they should have their defense lawyer. Their defense lawyer there for Karmelo, but it seems like they were trying to take care of the family aspect of it. The mom is right. The parents and the other children didn't do anything wrong. Even if Karmelo ends up being guilty, and then you hear other commentators that I normally respect. Too bad your son brought it up. Well, no, that's not the case. Too bad. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. I mean, so I just don't like applying standards when it's convenient. To your side or that side. There should be standards and principles applied to everybody. That's my opinion. All right, I'm going to shut up now, I think.
One more little thing. Doug said if this were 2 kids of the same race,
it would not
this
get
wouldn't
national.
even be in the limelight. Does that mean the media is the real problem?
Well, but we feed off it, though.
Right.
I mean, people love it. I mean, they just, and so they want to foment this. This guy, Dominique Alexander, I do not believe, from what I've seen about how he's handled it so far, is not an honest actor. I think he's pushed. I mean, I saw the defense attorney give a statement. This guy is a public defender. He's supposed to be a competent lawyer. He gave, I think, an appropriate interview. And then who's right next to him, from what I saw? Dominic Alexander. I would have said, get away from me, dude. You're not part of the defense team. Yeah. But see, that's a defense attorney not taking control of the situation. I would have said, you have your own press conference. I don't want to be at yours. I don't want you at mine. So get away from me. That's what I would do. Nobody runs the defense team but the defense counsel, of course, under the guidance of your client. But I can't stand these people that he's like a cheap Al Sharpton trying to come in just saying stuff. I mean, it just irritates me. I am not impressed with that Dominic Alexander. I believe in redemption, and then he made it about himself. You want to attack me? I'm going to attack you. And this, and this. And these are operatives. And the person in the White House is this. And I know what it's like to be a black man. He made it about ethnicity. And then Karmelo Anthony's lost in all this, and everybody else, and the stuff that we don't want to happen because now it becomes even more racialized. It's just bullshit, man. So I'm not impressed with Dominique Alexander, and not because of his past, because of how he acted in the present.
One more technical question. And it's very boring, but you taught us now that the $1 million bond being reduced to $250,000 was probably normal. Is it also normal for him to be placed on house arrest?
Absolutely. If you get charged with ag robbery, house arrest. I mean, most people, are going to be placed on house
people
arrest
were
for
like,
first
It's
degree.
not appropriate.
yeah.
It's for the judge to receive threats. That's generally not.
But let me tell you,
it's just absolutely horrific.
She's a Republican, by the way, from what I understand. This is a Republican judge, I thought. But who cares?
Right.
But my point is, that's normal. And I heard people say, nobody would do that. I mean, these conservative commentators, nobody would be released and everybody else would be. No. You get $1 million bond for capital murder. And it's still probably reduced to $500,000 or $750,000 or whatever it is. No one gets $1 million bond for murder. Not in Bexar County, at least. You don't even get a $250,000 to $300,000 bond. You get a $100,000 to $150,000 bond.
And this is not like it's in New York City. It's in Frisco. I mean,
I'm just telling you, for when people make these
Right.
claims that, and this and that, and the judge did something, the judge is not wrong. You're on complete house arrest under ELM, electronic monitoring. That's appropriate. That is the norm, quote unquote, when it comes to murder cases in Bexar County and the surrounding counties. Nobody gets $1 million bond for a murder charge.
I'm sorry. I wish it was different. I do think that people are bringing in. I do. I think they're bringing in a racial element to here, and it's coloring their judgment. And I wish it was different because it actually makes me sick.
shame.
It makes me sick. Both and it's truly, and I hate the both sides argument, but I think in this case it's legitimately both sides. I think people are deeply entrenched in their silos, and we're talking about people's lives here. I think the same standards should have been appropriated during the Floyd deliberations, and I have serious questions about whether they were, and we're just kind of seeing that overlap into here, and it bothers me, and I think it's dangerous. So anyway, let's see where this lands. I really
Alamo Talk says Al Sharpton is a hero.
Okay.
Several people put the laughing
Alamo.
emoji. Right.
I think he's trying to be a salvo to provoke people.
Yeah,
Alamo Talk. Why is he a hero?
Hero of.
That's it. You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. But
Then
thanks for inviting me here.
Carlos says, what was Derek Chauvin's bond?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't remember.
So what's next?
Letitia.
A.G. James.
Yes.
Man, let me tell you something.
Why are we all smiling?
You
It's like,
couldn't write a better script.
Oh my gosh.
If you were
No.
trying to make a movie play on the irony and the true hypocrisy, allegedly.
Nico, she could be married to her dad.
She could be. Maybe there's some religious sect that allows that, but doesn't. I don't know.
If anybody hasn't
there's
read
just so
up on
many
it,
parallels here. The irony.
Well,
is
the irony is breathtaking.
if
I
someone
mean,
didn't have a chance to know about this case, can anybody capsulize what it is?
this is my
there's
understanding.
two properties in question. But
So
go
she
ahead.
has a property in New York. She has a property in Virginia. She has to be in New York to be the AG of New York.
Yes.
So she's allegedly trying to get better interest rates.
Yes.
So she makes these claims about 4 units versus 5 rooms, not units, rooms, I guess.
She has a multifamily
And then she also claims that she's married to her dad, which gives her
For
better
the other
interest
property,
for
Norfolk,
another
Virginia.
property. Yeah, I'm just putting them all together probably improperly. And so she's making all this shit. So the allegation is that she puts false information in a document to get a loan, to get a better interest, to get a financial pecuniary gain. And it's false information, which is almost exactly what she
I
sued.
wonder where
pretty
she
close.
got the idea
It's
for
pretty
that
damn
Trump
close.
case.
She did it through a power of attorney for the Norfolk property.
What
which
did she say to
claimed.
Trump? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I know. I was just going to say that. Because Trump.
Is it on video?
Because I know other people signed off for you, Mr. Trump, but you had to have known. Okay, can we use the same? How about we use the Letitia James standard against Letitia James? That's not like a
Let me
reasonable
give you
thing.
the legal
Ugly.
analysis if she does that. She's fucked. That's the legal analysis. In the penal
Yeah.
code somewhere.
Is there a legal
If you
way to
use
say that?
analysis. This is be careful the world you help create. Because when ever said, "Oh, Trump is weaponizing the DOJ," wow, man, Biden weaponized the DOJ. You're doing. Again, you setting these standards.
Sure.
Whether it's really being weaponized or not, that's a different discussion. I'm just saying, how do you bitch about any of this stuff But now, even aside from all that, if I was defending her, I would defend her passionately. I would want her. She's making a claim of innocence. She said, "I'm not going to be bullied." Fine. Now it's got to play out right.
And yet it has been a rather insubstantial claim. And this is where Turley weighed in. I thought he was...
Jonathan?
He did. He did a great New York Post. If you guys want to hear, I think...
What did he say?
What I think is a measured, pretty thorough analysis. Pretty thorough, not thorough, because, again, we're still getting some additional material facts. But, it seems pretty open and closed. But he says that, at face value, these are rather credible. This was forwarded, and I asked you to explain, what does it mean to refer for criminal charges? The Federal Housing Financial Authority, William Pulte, referred this to the Department of Justice after analyzing records, really going back some 20 years. The Norfolk property, again, which she claimed was a primary residence. She isn't. She's obviously is the sitting Attorney General for New York, so she can't have a primary residence outside of New York. A. B. As Nico stated, it's common. They said and this is what Turley said. There are tons of charges that have kind of come through the system that have ended in convictions, legitimate convictions, in terms of mortgage fraud. Mortgage fraud is rampant.
That happens a lot
in New York alone. Yeah. So anyway, he said, "Look, at face value, this seems rather credible. Let's see what happens." But he spent a lot of time on the irony of it. But the primary residence issue, it was a third party. She had given somebody power of attorney to sign for her, and did claim, in fact, that her father was a spouse. And I think most people know that if you're trying to get a primary residence, the interest rates are infinitely more favorable than if you're getting an investment property, which raises the issue of the second property in New York, which is a multifamily, and she had stated it was a 4-unit versus a 5-unit.
And he gets a better interest rate
categorically,
for 4, right?
Exactly. Investment properties have to fit.
But it's a 5?
It's a 5.
Yeah.
Yes. And if they categorically fit certain criteria, they end up, of course, with more favorable interest rates in the long run. And so it seems pretty straightforward because her signature is present, or people for which documents they have showing that she's given power of attorney. So she has said that she's innocent. This is all politicized. We would expect she would say that, but it'll be interesting to see on the facts how she comes back and puts meat on that skeleton.
I mean, from a prosecutor's analysis, it matters whether there's one FUBAR on the application or 5 of them.
Oh yeah,
because it goes to your mens rea, right? And we talk about mens rea. Yep. So it looks at that. I mean, we'll see. We'll see where the evidence plays out. She hasn't made any evidentiary claims. She just says I'm innocent overall. That's a general claim, which is fine. I expect her to say that. We'll see. So the referral is from when you said the DOJ referred it for.
No, it was referred to the DOJ.
That's what I was telling you about on the phone. The DOJ, they are the prosecutorial agency.
No, I want you to explain it.
Yeah,
that
so
process.
People make referrals to a prosecutorial agency. The referrals usually come from a law enforcement entity. So you have the initiating agency, which is law enforcement, and then you have the reviewing agency, which is the prosecutorial department or agency. So prosecutorial agencies do not typically conduct investigations.
So in this case, it was the FHFA, the Federal Housing Financial Authority under William Pulte, who did the referral to the Department of Justice.
Correct.
Okay. So they're obviously doing forensic analysis.
The DOJ is going to come in. They're going to do some type of analysis on that, and then in the DA's office, it would be their intake section, and so they would look at it and say, okay, there's not enough. Then they may have investigators say, hey, we're missing this. Look into this. Is this really right? Is this accurate? Go back and get this for me. And so they're reviewing the investigation or the complaint or the referral that was put into them, and then they'll make a decision on whether they proceed to a grand jury or not.
Let's see what happens. This is so weird that it's happening. I mean, it's almost 1 for 1. And it doesn't seem like they had to try very hard. I mean, it really is bizarre. The idea of manipulating financial records so that you get favorable business lending terms.
Right.
And then operating through a power of attorney.
Just the optics are insane. Yeah. But George, you said this a long time. If the left is bitching about something, they're usually doing it.
Yeah.
And look, that seems... It seems to fit here. It seems to fit here. And again, I'm going to be cautious about everything.
Of course.
I want to be consistent.
Kind of like on the Austin Metcalf.
I want to be consistent about it. I'm curious to hear if she makes a statement it's interesting that she doesn't have a press conference like Eric Adams said. Bullshit. He came out pretty strong initially. Yeah. But she's kind of crickets right now. Again, she has a right to remain silent.
Trying to come up with an idea.
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, right now in the beginning, it's easy to hide under the claim of political retribution. Through criminalizing differences, but we'll see. It's not looking great. At least if Turley's spot on, he tends to be pretty measured in his analysis. It's not looking great, but let's see what happens. Now, the financial remedy for her, apparently they're asking her to pay $454 quadrillion just to kind of.
Isn't that the same amount that Trump had to pay?
No, I'm just saying 400. Remember, Trump was a ridiculous amount. It was almost $500 million. What was it? 454 million, right?
Million.
As Ray said, you couldn't write a better movie script on political corruption.
Let's see what happens.
To me, it's on the irony, the hypocrisy. You want to talk about true hypocrisy? if this ends up being true, this should be in the definition in a dictionary of hypocrisy on that. Well, any questions on the three? Because we don't have time to get into the Federal Reserve. I mean, the Federal Reserve is its own animal itself on whether Trump can fire him or not. Because I'm going to go down this thing. Because I didn't know crap about the Federal Reserve for years. And you look into it and you think, well, what's the purpose of the Federal Reserve? How can this other agency run our money systems and interest rates and who controls them and who's their oversight and all this other stuff? And from my understanding is their first mission is to create monetary stability, right? The value of the dollar, control gradual inflation. And they usually do that through either printing money or through issuing of bonds. And they control, yes, they can issue governmental bonds, which is weird, by the way, and they're on their own. And then I think in the 1970s, George, and please, you're our resident scholar, they're supposed to control now employment also through some of their practices, which is interesting. So it's unclear whether Trump can fire him. I did some looking into, or I had people in my office look into it. I'm not going to do it. Humphrey's executor case. Have you heard about that one? 1935. Yes. Where FDR fired a Federal Trade Commission chairman that was hostile to his policies and all this other bullshit that he wanted to do back then. And Humphrey sued because he wasn't fired for cause. And the federal statute written, and the Federal Reserve statute, by the way, is written similarly. So that's why they're saying, this may be some precedence here. What's going on? Well, the problem was he was dead by the time he gets to the SCOTUS, right? By the time he gets to the Supreme Court. That's why it's Humphrey's executor case in that way. But the ruling was Congress can place, correct me if I'm wrong, George, Congress can place restrictions on the president's ability to fire executive branch employees, but it's got to be from Congress. And so that's why he can fire, but there can be restrictions placed on Congress. Has Congress acted? Does he fire him and say, screw it, let's take it to the courts and let them decide? I think the Federal Reserve is insane.
It is.
The concept.
For 90 years, it's been an untouchable organization. It is an independent agency. And there's the Trump v. Wilcox. I thought you were going to get into that, but because that's at issue now. I mean, Humphrey's executor has moved on. It's become a 90-year pathetic precedent. It's insane. Because here's why. You have the most, and this is the issue, you have the most powerful economic official in the country that is also the least accountable. Tell me how that's a great idea. The voters can't touch him. The president can't touch him. Congress can't touch him. Nobody can touch him. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do. Yeah. This is a person who has been given enormous power. He can fumble inflation. He can trigger recessions by virtue of his policies. He can mislead the public. And there's ample evidence that this guy has. That's the problem right now, because the market tanked because he threw out a bomb about Trump's, yes, a rhetorical bomb. I can't believe I have to say that. About Trump's tariffs, saying it's going to lead to inflationary pressures and it's going to hurt growth. Really? I don't remember the concern in 2021 when inflation was skyrocketing. I mean, it was at 6 times what it was when Trump left office. And this guy did nothing in 2021 and didn't do anything until 2022. And by that time, wages had dropped and mortgage rates are through the roof. The economy's in the shitter. And this guy, whatever. And then we hear nothing from him. And then he decides he's going to lower interest rates right before the election in 2024 in September. His decisions, his actions have been decidedly political.
And he was appointed by Trump.
And you want to talk about malfeasance. What's that?
He was appointed by
Trump. But re-up by Biden.
By Trump and re-up.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but we can't go back to Trump 0.0 appointments. And the reason, because Trump has come out and said, look, I
screwed up.
I completely screwed up. Yeah. And he says, I did a lot of these things. I want to extend an olive branch. I wanted to, so let's all do this together.
Now he knows it's not possible.
He wouldn't do that today. And so Trump's saying this guy can't be fired long enough. And Trump v. Wilcox before the court right now is going to do an evaluation of Humphrey. That's what's coming before the court. And
we'll find out soon.
And so the point is, if Trump is going to be responsible, and here's why I'd like to part on this. Here's what I think is the inconsistency that I think is going to win the day in favor of Trump or any president. So the argument that's coming back, and you touched on it, is, well, this is going to destabilize monetary policy, and it's going to politicize it. And so I'm scratching my head thinking, voters elect the president of the United States
to enact their monetary policy,
to enact trade policy,
right? Yeah,
energy policy,
which affects,
right?
Yeah, I agree,
and spending policy.
Yeah,
but the president can't touch interest rates. He can't do anything.
Look, I think my takeaway, we'll leave it at this. I mean, and then we wrap up. But I think any president should be able to fire. And the way you remedy that is that the election, the party will suffer at the midterms, and you'll lose a re-election if you screw it up. Like any other policy a president enforces. So I think that the president should. I just don't like so much power that's unfettered. You can't control them, and they can literally can say and do whatever the hell they want. Whether it's to a Democrat president, again, setting up a process that surpasses the person. Or a Republican president. I think the president should take their licks or take their credit based off their
And that
policies.
is the crux of the American system.
Yeah.
Power and accountability.
Yeah.
You got to have both.
Yeah.
Absolute power corrupts.
Any last minute comments, Saulo?
No.
Nada?
We're good.
Karen, the
What
real
would
Karen?
Jasmine Crockett do
Who's
in this
that?
situation?
Who's that?
She's
Texas
the-
representative who's completely out of control. Speaking of, talk about racializing everything.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She's full of shit, I guess. All right, guys. Hey, have a blessed.
I don't know who she is.
Hold
And
on.
that's a wrap. She's full of shit, I
I
guess.
don't know who she is. But I mean,
Wednesday, what's happening Wednesday?
oh,
Yeah, gotta
R-rated Christianity. We're going to be
On
discussing
Wednesday?
the Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony from a kind of a biblical perspective, an ethnic perspective, and we'll go into some of the legal analysis. And maybe more information will come out by then. We're supposed to have Pastor Marquise Cox on with us to be a guest speaker host. Was it a guest, just a guest with us on there. We'll be talking about that. But again, for those that believe and follow the Christian faith, have a wonderful celebration. Yesterday was Good Friday. I hope you went to service. If not, then go to today or tomorrow. And a lot of people go on Easter weekend or Resurrection weekend. And I guess my prayer has always been that let that be a seed, but then continue your relationship and your commitment to attending a church, a good church, and then go from there. So God bless you guys. Enjoy your families in celebration of the resurrection. Thank you.